Howdy, howdy. Welcome back to my tiny corner of the internet. And so today's video, I want to address a common talking point that is kind of used in my comment section, that's used as a common argument against myself and anybody else who talks about the cost of living crisis, who talks about the fact that housing has reached 500,000 in this country, and a third of all buyers in 2025 were real estate investors, and the average American family can't afford his own home, and so the average American family can't afford their own home, and so therefore they're forced to rent, you know, a 1,000 square foot shitbox, okay? And so this argument that I've gotten quite a lot, and you probably noticed by the title of this video, is that it is not the moral responsibility of the working class to be more moral than the ruling class. And the reason I say that is because the argument that I've gotten a lot, and it's not a new argument, it's been used quite a lot, is that there's an underlying assumption that when it comes to anybody who talks about class politics, that they have to be perfectly morally consistent to say, hey, I just want what's best for myself as a member of the working class, okay? And you will get this argument. If you ever criticize the arrangement that the ruling class is setting up for you, if you criticize the fact that BlackRock is committing the greatest land theft in American history, making the average American, you know, perpetual renters and aliens in their own homeland while they hollow out their good-paying jobs in industry for foreign workers, if you criticize this arrangement, you're going to get this argument. You're going to be called a stinky poo-poo head who is an entitled first world worker, and that, you know, you're privileged and you're a treatler, right? If you contest this arrangement, either from the political mainstream left that's going to accuse you of being a treatler, right? Or the political right that's going to tacitly ignore this as they celebrate Diwali in the White House. Okay? So either way, you know, you're going to get this criticism from both sides of the aisle, is because the fact is neither side actually cares about the American working class. And so the argument usually goes along this, okay? It goes along these lines, that if you're not perfectly 100% morally consistent, that, you know, obviously any kind of nominal change that you want to do to the system, such as liquidating BlackRock and doing a fire sale of their assets, is completely nullified, is because you have one moral hypocrisy. And, you know, therefore, everything that you say is invalid, and we have to just completely disregard it entirely. And that's why BlackRock should force, you know, young families to rent out a 1,000 square foot shit boxes paying $3,000 a month of rent. Okay, they will do this logic over and over again. And to some degree, even Sargon of Akkad, in his previous video that I criticized, did this stuff, is because he was playing the same moralistic garbage argument game with the supposed economic left, saying that, you know, he made the underlying assumption that wealth is what makes people moral. And again, I've never said on this channel that I care about the moral arguments. Every single argument I make on this channel is an argument of self-interest, for my self-interest as an American worker. I don't own multi-million-dollar companies, and I'm just an ordinary guy who has a wife and just wants to have an okay standard of living, not be nickel and dime and live paycheck to paycheck while being gaslit by a ruling class that things are okay. And if you criticize it one bit, you're just an entitled first worlder, and they're just going to import more immigrant laborers to replace you. Okay? So everything I say has nothing to do with morality, and every argument that I make is purely an argument of self-interest as an American worker. There's no moral argument to anything I say. And that's why I say that in this video, why I titled it, it is not the moral responsibility of the working class to be more moral than the ruling class. One of the things I absolutely despise is that under this cultural assumption, the people who have the least have to be the most moral, while the people who have the most, Jeff Bezos, Larry Fink, Larry Ellison, and the scoundrel ruling class members who basically say they're going to spy on us endlessly and send, you know, FBI agents to our door if we disagree with them, you know, they're going to tell us that we have to take moral lectures from these people on what we're allowed and not allowed to think. The people who are the least moral of society are telling the working class that they have to be the most moral. And I've never understood this. I really don't understand this. You know, you're asking people who have the least to be the most moral. No. It's not the onus of the working class to be the most moral. I don't care about being the most moral. I can care about sustaining my own material interest, okay? And what I hate the most is that because of this cultural assumption that no politics can be done unless if there is 100% moral consistency on the side of the economic left or the pro-working class side of the aisle. And I reject these terms. I don't care about being perfectly morally consistent, is because the ruling class is allowed to be self-serving for God knows whatever reason when they buy out entire neighborhoods and make ordinary Americans rent for $3,000 a month, or when insurance companies take advantage of young families to basically extort them for higher and higher premiums and deductibles. Well, you know, their family members dies because they can't afford insulin. Okay? Why do I have to accept the terms and conditions of what I'm allowed to think morally from a class of people who quite literally throws a 33-year-old woman in jail for saying the wrong words to an insurance company over the phone? Okay? No, I don't accept your moral conditions. It's because the fact is, it is not the onus of the working class to be perfectly moral just to say, I would like to have an okay standard of living in this country. Okay? It's that simple. With that being said, I hate this dichotomy so much is because it plays and informs such a large role in American politics that you can see it play out on both the political left and the political right, which once again exposes the fact that neither of them actually cares about the American working class, is because if you protest this arrangement that your labor is being replaced by foreign labor, you know, the political left will accuse you of being a treatlerite and tell you that you're an entitled first worlder and that, you know, you should accept the declining standard of living and live in the city paying $3,000 a month, while the political right, who basically believes the same thing as the mainstream left, gets to live in the countryside with their mansions. And they're allowed to enjoy peace and privacy while everybody else has to deal with the over-socialized nature of mankind and the lack of privacy through Palantir you know, in major cities. Okay? Yes. So, again, when I say I'm making these politics, and I say I don't like the ruling class, and I don't like these people, I mean it with my heart. I'm not trying to win anybody over. I'm just saying the fact is that because of how loaded the discussion is on working class issues, I just don't care about appealing to your sensibilities or care about falling into the perfect moral consistency ideal that you wish people who talk about working class issues in this country, you know, want them to do. Why you want us to tail the political left. If I follow the political left, which I did for years, you know, you bring up any meaningful working class issues, you're going to get called a treatlerite. If you talk about, I had a leftist tell me when I was in a Discord server talking to him about how the average house price is now $500,000. Do you know what he said? Oh, you have a house? That's such a first worlder thing. A treatlerite, a self-identified communist, somebody who says they care about the working class. Okay, he can care about the working class of another country, but he can't care about American workers, which brings us into how, once again, how this moralist argument, this whole dichotomy of how you're allowed to talk about class politics in the United States plays out in the mainstream political left and political right. Because I was already planning on making this video already and addressing this argument because, quite frankly, my patience is growing thin and I just don't care about like the little gotchas and quote mining games that people who hate the American working class like to play, but I want to get into it. So I came across an interesting story from somebody who's a supposed senator in Maine, or a wannabe senator. His name's Plattner. Okay, he worked for Blackwater, he was a mercenary, and he worked a lot in the military-industrial complex and all that sorts of stuff. Okay, and so he's currently getting smeared by Palantir because they dug up a tattoo that was on his chest of the Totenkopf skull and bones. Now, the context whether or not he's actually a Nazi is really up for debate. He claims that he's not, but I don't really care. But the thing is why did he all of a sudden get hyperdoxed by Peter Thiel and his lackeys at Palantir, all over the internet? Why is he getting smeared? He's getting smeared because of this tattoo. Because a week prior to Palantir digging up all this stuff on this would-be senator, which I'm not even endorsing him, mind you, okay? Because he started talking about that he finds it incredibly messed up, his experience at the Veteran Affairs Office and the lack of healthcare in this country was just so abysmal that he thinks that every American deserves free healthcare. Okay? That is why Palantir doxed him. That's why they did an entire PR media campaign. Both the political left and the political right are doing everything I just said in this video to smear this guy. The political right is, of course, stroking their chin saying, moral hypocrite, you kill people in Iraq, moral hypocrite. And then the political left is basically doing the exact same thing. It's funny is because Palantir didn't dox him prior to doing any of this stuff, talking about any economical left issues or pro-American working class issues. They only doxed him after the fact is because he went out of line and said, hey, I think the average American should have health care. Okay? And so, because of this, dangly thing of moral consistency over everybody's heads, we're back at square one of like what I said at the beginning of the video. that, you know, the political right is, you know, stroking their chin, saying, you know, smugly saying, gotcha, moral hypocrite. And then, you know, the political left is just too busy calling him a treatlerite is because he dare even spoke about how he wants the average American to have health care. The political right is smearing him as training allegedly an Antifa terror cell in Maine, which is fucking stupid, is because it looks like it's 12 people and there's like a gun club or whatever, but neither here nor there. But again, all this happened is because he said, I want Americans to have health care. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. They didn't dox him when he was in Iraq. They didn't dox him when he was a mercenary for Blackwater. They doxed him for saying, I think ordinary Americans should have health care. And then the mainstream political left, especially the bourgeois left, said, treatlerite much? Nazi much? You want, health care for ordinary people in the United States? But this is what I keep saying. I've said this multiple times on this channel. I don't expect sympathy from either side, okay? Because I've been through this plenty of times before. I spent 3 years talking to the political left saying, hey, you know, help out with the American worker. It's just like I said in the last video with Sargon of Akkad, is that they don't actually care about the American worker. They care about, you know, the working class of another country in an abstract notion, but then they never do anything. They never move to the Philippines to join a Maoist struggle. They're just an endless fucking nuisance in a Starbucks coffee shop on a MacBook, bitching about how American workers are treatlerites while they sip on their coffee. So am I expecting sympathy from these people? Am I expecting them to change their mind? No, I don't actually expect their mind. In fact, this entire video is not about changing anybody's mind, but telling you straight up that it is not the onus of the working class to be the most moral in society. We don't really care. Okay, I don't get paid enough to care. Okay, at the end of the day, any class politics is just a reflection of self-interest. Okay, no amount of moral shaming is really going to change this fact. And so this is just the crux of the video, is that if you want to do pro-working class politics in the United States, recognize that you're going to get hate not only from the political right, but the political left as well, is because if you talk about the average house price, it's like that jackass on the Discord server, he's going to call you a treatlerite for even talking about houses in the first place, is because brown people in the third world don't own their own homes. And so therefore, that's why you need to accept BlackRock, you know, committing the greatest land theft in history. Okay, that is how the argumentation will go. That is what you're going to engage with. And I notice, because there's a lot of people who are on the right who are disheartened about the cost of living crisis, and you're looking at this stuff going down, and you just don't know what to do. Well, again, you know, welcome to the club. You're on the side of the aisle, the same as me, who is just saying the quiet part out loud, saying that I would like the average American to be able to afford their own home, a standard 3-bed, 2-bath, enough money off of a single income to raise a family, own a home, have a car, and still be okay. Okay? And this is what you're going to deal with. All because you just want ordinary Americans to have a decent standard of living. This is what you're going to deal with. Sucks, doesn't it? It sucks. It's funny. Even the people who say that they care about the working class really don't care about the working class. They'll care about another country's working class before they'll care about the American working class. And again, you know, now you also know why the political right hates, a lot of it hates the left too, so much, okay? So if you join this channel is because you wanted to hear different opinions, you will never hear anything I say talked about on the mainstream outlets, ever. Ever. You know, even the people on the political left, like, you know, Sargon of Akkad showcased on his channel, talking about economic left, it's like, you know, they're too busy doing the gay masculinity LARP, showing about how they have Ford F-150s, 150K trucks, and they grow beards, and that's how they're going to reach the working class. But never once will they talk about a single substantive issue that the working class in the United States faces. The fact that the average house price is $500,000. You can't criticize BlackRock. If you do it to the political left, they'll call you a treatlerite. If you do that with the political, or you do that with the political right, they're going to call you a conspiracy theorist, and they'll just completely tacitly ignore it and just continually to helplessly let BlackRock get away with what they're doing. Okay? Well, you know, you came to the right channel. If you're looking for somebody with a different opinion, is because I'm going to say right here, right now, on my own channel, is that if I had an ounce of political power, I would quite literally nationalize BlackRock. I would do a fire sale of their assets, and I would throw their CEO in jail. Yes, I would throw Larry Fink in jail. It's that fucking simple. Okay? And so, you know, anybody who wants to come in my chat saying that I wouldn't, saying, moral hypocrite, moral gotcha, you know, you had one nice thing in your lifetime and so therefore you're a moral hypocrite. Actually, you're rich. No, I don't care, dude. Okay? I don't care. I don't like rich people. And doing this little cheap gotcha game isn't going to change my opinion. I just don't care about being 100% morally consistent to say, I don't like rich people and I think the average American should be able to afford their own home. Dox me for it. Okay, go for it. I've said this before. There are two stages, there are two realities where you can tell whether somebody is being authentic, okay? People are most authentic and true to themselves in two instances. One, in anonymity. They have no reason to hide what they have to say. And in power. When somebody is in power and they're beyond reproach, you also see who their character really is. But truth be told, I'm getting to the point in my life watching stuff go down, watching BlackRock get away with committing the greatest land theft in American history, and then watching the doxing campaigns that play against anybody who criticizes against us from both the mainstream left and the political right, is that I just don't care. I don't like rich people. I don't like our ruling class. I don't like Larry Fink. I don't like Larry Ellison. I don't like the World Economic Forum, and I'm not looking for validation or some quote mining moral gotcha to say I'm not allowed to say I hate rich people. I hate rich people. It's that simple. Given an ounce of political power, yes, I would throw the majority of them in jail. Okay? It's that simple. So, with that being said, I think I've made my point. I think I've made my talking point, my rant, loud and clear on what I think about the whole situation. I think that that there's not really a pro-American working class in this, movement in this country. I don't think anybody really cares about the American working class. Even the people who say they care about the American working class don't really care about the working class, both on the right and the left. And so, again, I'm saying this is an individual, not a representative of any political party, just a lone man on the internet speaking truth to power, giving my 2 cents in a microphone, watching the games that the establishment plays with the lives of ordinary people, and here I am, just giving my 2 cents speaking truth to power. What do you think?